Would you like to be able to capture beautiful photos and videos of your family? Maybe even start vlogging on YouTube. In this video, I'm sharing all of the cameras and accessories that I use to film my YouTube videos and family travel vlogs. So whether you're an aspiring content creator, or would just like to capture beautiful memories of your loved ones, keep watching for my top tips on how best to do this. While YouTube is my full-time job and I have tried out a lot of cameras, remember, first and foremost, I'm a mum and I want to keep things simple and easy. I've generally got my hands very full. So yes, we want to get the best footage, but we also want to keep the process as simple and easy as possible. So what's important to remember is the best camera that you can use is generally the one you have with you. And 99.9% of us these days will have an amazing camera with us at all times in the form of our smartphones. So if you want to get started, you do not need to wait until you've got the perfect camera because you've already got the perfect starting camera. You can just use your phone. You can get started just holding your phone handheld, or you can add on a basic tripod. I love this one from Ulanzi because it has a specific phone holder attachment on it. And you can also screw a camera directly onto it once you upgrade. Your other option would be to add a rotating phone attachment to any standard tripod. And one of my other go-to very basic small and neat tripods is this Pixie Grip tripod. These are not the most expensive tripods I own, but to be honest, they're the ones I use most frequently. They are extendable. They have cold shoes for mounting accessories when you want to add these at a later date. I can highly recommend. And I will link everything that I'm talking about camera and accessory wise in a blog post down in the description if you want to check that out when you've finished watching. So pros of using your phone. You already have it. It is generally always with you. The automatic settings are easy to use. And while the front facing camera to film like this, where you can see yourself, is not always as good, the rear facing camera will be a much higher quality camera. Other pros, you can edit directly on your phone if you don't have a computer yet. So please, if you're thinking about getting started with creating videos of your family or for YouTube, do not wait until you have enough money to buy the perfect camera. Just get started using your phone. It's absolutely what I did, and it was a much older phone than this. I currently have a 13 Pro Max, which is not the newest. I think at the time of filming, they're on an iPhone 15 at the moment, but the image quality is amazing. I started, to give you some context, with an iPhone 7. I wish someone had told me to just look at a window, which is what I'm doing now. I'm using natural lighting rather than have the window side on like I was doing when I started. But if you just film yourself with your phone in front of a window, grab yourself that tripod if you need it, you've got everything you need to begin. Now, cons of using your phone, obviously the battery life is perhaps not going to be fantastic if you're also using it as a phone and to play your music and all the other things. Storage may be an issue because not all phones have the facility to add external storage. And obviously another con can be that you can be interrupted with calls and texts while you're trying to film. Just to give you an idea of video quality, I am now using my iPhone, just normal standard settings, no accessories. And I'm using the front-facing camera. Now, the problem with this is if you look at the camera, it looks fine. But if you look at yourself in the picture, it looks weird because you're not looking at the camera. You need to look at the knobbly bit where the camera actually is, not at yourself. And this kind of rings true across all of the cameras, that if you're looking at yourself, it looks weird because you're not looking at the camera. Does that make sense? Okay, now let's have a look at the rear-facing camera, which is better. So I'm now using the rear camera on my iPhone, and I am checking that I'm in shot by using the viewfinder under the camera remote section on my Apple Watch. So you should find that the picture is better than the rear facing camera. It is always worth though wiping the lens. Sometimes our iPhone cameras can get a bit smudgy, so if you are recording, make sure you're not covering the lens at all where you're holding it. So this is just holding the camera at arm's length with my arms, no tripods or anything. And that's how I'm going to show you test footage for each of these cameras without any of the accessories, just so you can get an idea of what you're getting just straight out of the box. So this is your phone. Now let's look at some cameras. So the next camera I'm going to talk about is the one I am filming on now. So we're going to switch to another camera to talk about this setup in just a second. I would say that this setup is my go-to. It's my current favorite, tied perhaps with the last camera that I'm going to share with you. So the one that I would recommend to you is either this one or the last one we're going to discuss. And at the very end of the video, I'm going to give you some things to think about as to what you're going to use the camera for, and really let you know, depending on your needs, whether I'd recommend this one or that last one we're going to talk about. Anyway, let's switch cameras. So this is my current go-to setup, the Sony ZV1 Mark II, or technically, I suppose in the UK, we'd say ZV1, but all the tech reviewers say ZV1, so that's what we're gonna call it, like it's its name. You can just use the camera on its own without any of the accessories, and it's a great camera. It's ideal for both talking head videos, which is kind of like what I'm doing now. This segment here is just like a talking head, as well as vlogging where I'm walking around and talking. This is what I use for the majority of my Disney vlogs, as well as my main channel videos. The internal microphone on this is fantastic, and it has an AI feature to know where it should be recording the sound from, based on whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera. It comes with a fluffy dead cat that slots on top to reduce wind noise and that p sound that isn't very attractive when it's picked up on the microphone. It's got a hot shoe on top where you can attach Sony accessories, or you can use it as a cold shoe to just stick on a light like I've done here. There's a place to attach the tripod underneath, and they very sensibly moved the screw hole, because on the Mark I of this camera, when you attach the tripod, it blocked the battery door, which was a bit of a pain. The autofocus on this camera is exceptional. I love the colors that come out of it. It's really good in low light. You can record in both horizontal mode, which is what you'd film in for long form YouTube videos, or vertical mode, which you'd use for shorts, TikTok and Instagram Reels. It has the facility to change batteries, which obviously most phones are not going to do. You can buy extra batteries and swap them out, which means you don't have to stop filming when you're out and about and the battery goes flat. And you can also plug this in directly to charge the battery within the camera, and it's really easy to plug and play, use as a webcam too, with no extra software or faffing around. It's literally plug and play, and it can be used as a webcam for Zoom, live streaming, that kind of thing. Now, I like the fact that this one takes a still image at the beginning of every clip, so you've got a lot of still images to use as well. This is really handy when I'm filming, say, on our Disney trips, and I have a lot of images to use as well. But what I don't like is on the Mark I of this camera, you could also take stills by clicking the camera button while you were filming. And they took that feature away for the Mark II, which is really irritating because I used to use that all of the time. Other cons, it does crop in a bit when you enable image stabilization. If you turn off active stabilization, the footage is quite bumpy when you're walking around. And when you turn on that image stabilization, it does crop in a little bit. And the image stabilization is not as good as some of the other cameras that we're going to talk about in a minute. Accessory wise, I have this Ulanzi tripod. It extends, it can be used as a selfie stick to talk to the camera and vlog, and also as a tabletop tripod if you just want to talk to the camera. It has a cold shoe, so quite often I attach the microphone that I've attached on top down just onto the tripod to keep it out of the way. Honestly, these Ulanzi tripods, can't rave about them enough. The other two accessories I love for this camera are the DJI D4 Duo microphone, which has two microphones. So you can have all of the audio coming just from this front microphone, or you can flip a switch, and if you're talking from behind the camera, can have audio coming from both the back and the front, and you can choose which one to use in the edit. Now, the other accessory that I love, and I have a few different varieties of these, I will link them all in that blog post, is this light, which you can see if, as I turn this on, just puts that little bit of extra light on my face, really helps to light me properly whichever way I'm facing. So maybe the room could be really, really dark and still the shot is properly exposed. And it stops the ISO, which we're not going to get too technical in this video, but it stops the picture basically getting all jittery in low light because I've added light into the shot. The temperature on this light can be changed to make it much warmer or much cooler. Somewhere in the middle tends to be about right. So nothing looks too orangey if it's too warm, or I look a bit ill if it's too cold. So this is the Sony ZV1, just held at arm's length. I'm just holding the camera. I've not got any accessories at all. And I've got the image stabilization turned on. It's reasonably smooth. If I go back here where it's a little bit darker, still pretty good picture quality, I'd say. Again, you need to make sure you're looking in the lens, not at yourself. If I'm looking at the flip out screen, it looks a bit weird because I'm not looking at you. Always worth mentioning. Another thing I do love about this camera is the fact that it's got the flip out screen. And if we go out here, well, it's even darker actually. See, quite dark out here, still not too bad, but let's flip on some lights just to show you. So this is the camera. I don't know if you can see, it's got a red line around the screen as it's recording. It is a really good way of checking it's actually filming. There is nothing more annoying than thinking you're filming, talking to the camera, and it turns out you weren't filming. But this one's got not just this big red box around the actual screen, but it's also got the red light, which I really like. Now this camera is pretty easy to walk around and film with. It has got this kind of little grippy bit to hold on to, so there is something so that it doesn't slip out of your hands. Let me just show you with the image stabilization turned off. So this is image stabilization turned off. I don't know if you can see there's more in the picture. The field of view is bigger because when you turn the image stabilization on, it crops in a bit. But as I'm walking around, so this is me just walking with no image stabilization, it feels quite shaky. It can make you feel a bit sticky perhaps. However, if I turn the image stabilization back on, I'm holding the camera at the same distance, but suddenly it's cropped in a little bit. If you're okay with that, then that's fine. Whereas if I'm walking, it should seem a little bit smoother. Is it smoother than before? The other thing I really like about this camera, I want you to look at the background. It's got a background defocus button. Whereas with my M50 camera, with the big lens, you'd have to play with f-stop and things and aperture to fix the blurry background. This has got a blurry background button. So this is the clear mode. Just take a look at, say, like the Easter decorations in the background. This is the clear mode. And then if I press that, it should be slightly blurry. Can you see that that is blurry in the background? It's not quite as blurry as the blur on the big camera, the big lens, but for a touch of the button, there we go, just again, clear and defocus. And I will say the autofocus on this camera is exceptional. It's really, really good. It also has something called product showcase mode. So this is normal mode where it's prioritizing my face. And if I hold my hand up close, you can still see my face is in focus and my hand isn't super in focus. In fact, let's use a thing, shall we? We're gonna borrow Bella's bunny for this experiment. So my face is still in focus, Bella's bunny is closer to the camera, and yet my face is still the thing in focus. However, if I turn on product showcase mode, now product showcase mode is on, my face is in focus, but then if I hold Bella's bunny up to the camera, you can see the bunny is in focus and I am blurred out, and then back to me and the bunny and back to me. Can you see that the autofocus on this camera is insanely good? Although if I'm vlogging a big trip, I like to have the external accessories for the lighting, and I like to have the microphones and things because I know that I'm filming a lot of vlogs. I've got one going out every week for many, many weeks off a trip. Then I want to make sure that I've got the best footage I can get. If I'm just filming out and about, then I will have just this camera on its own. I won't bother with the other accessories. So if you want to get started and you just want this camera, you don't want to fuss with the rest of the accessories, this camera out the box is pretty much all you'll need. I probably would get the Ulanzi tripod just for ease, so you could stick it down and you have got that option to do talking head, but you don't need it if you're just vlogging. So this is the Canon M50 Mark II. The main benefit of this camera is you can switch out the lenses for different looks. The lens I was using earlier when I was talking to you about the camera I'm filming on now is the Sigma 16mm, and this is kind of a very go-to YouTuber lens for talking head videos because it gives that really blurry background that YouTubers love and can kind of give a very professional feel to your videos. So accessories I've got here very quickly, we've got the Joby Wavo Plus. This one was actually gifted to me, so full disclosure, I have been using it and I really like it. I like the fact that you can actually plug in headphones and check how the audio sounds when you're doing talking head videos. It can save a lot of fuss of having dodgy audio when you get the footage into your computer and you've wasted your whole time filming and it all sounds rubbish. I'm using another one of my Ulanzi tripods for this camera too. I do have a couple of them. Now, like the Sony ZV1, the Canon M50 has this flip out screen, so you can see yourself. Given a choice, I would always prefer a flip out screen than a flip up screen, because with a flip up screen, like I used to have on my original Canon G7X, if you put any accessories on it, then you end up blocking the screen. So yeah, this camera is a good quality camera and you have the benefit of interchangeable lenses. But if you're a beginner, I'm not going to really recommend this one to you. First of all, the setup is heavy. This lens weighs a ton. I filmed my entire Walt Disney World 14-night vlog series in 2022 using this. And the first time we went to Disneyland Paris, I used this too. We got some great footage, but it weighs a ton. You've got to put extra filters and things on if you want to maintain that blurry background, meaning I was taking glass filters on and off. It was very fiddly and not what I wanted to be doing in a theme park with my children, which is why I ultimately ended up switching to the Sony ZV1, which is the one that I've been mostly filming on since. So if you really want to get into changing lenses for different looks and you have the time and the bandwidth for fiddling with this and learning all the manual settings, maybe it's worth a look. But for me, this bulky and heavy, I prefer the autofocus and the colors that come out of my Sony camera. This one is definitely more fiddly to use as a webcam. You have to download extra software and things. And if I'm honest, I am thinking about selling this whole Canon setup and looking at buying the Sony ZV-E10, which is the equivalent Sony camera to this with the interchangeable lenses. But unless you are doing YouTube full time and you really want to get into upgrading different lenses and things, I'd probably steer clear of this as a beginner. It is good for talking head videos, but honestly for vlogging, it's not amazing because the image stabilization is not good. And there was so much of my Disney footage I couldn't use in the vlogs because it was just too bumpy. The next camera we're going to talk about is my GoPro, which is good for vlogging. You can use it for vlogging, but there are some cons to it, which we'll get to. But this is really good for B-roll, which are the bits of video that go over the talking head bit. So this is A-roll, I'm talking to the camera, I'm talking to you. B-roll would be clips of me doing things or clips of things I'm talking about laid over the top of the A-roll. So this is great for action shots and B-roll too. I have the GoPro Hero 11. It is not the newest GoPro, but in all fairness, it is very good. I bought the Creator Combo, which came with external microphones and all sorts of various things. I'm going to be honest with you, don't waste your money on that. I didn't love all the Creator Combo extras. The first time this really came into its own for vlogging was when we did Alton Towers and it was raining so heavily I could not use any of my other cameras because they would have just got so wet they would have been ruined. So one of the main benefits of this is it's just so resilient. It's waterproof. I can give this to the kids to vlog with. If they drop it, it's not going to really damage the camera. They are really tough. Accessories I have and would recommend for this would just be like a very small tripod like this that you can put it down with, but it still makes it small enough to shove in your pocket. A floaty for if you are going in a swimming pool or especially if you're going in the sea so that you do not lose your camera. And then either a chest or a wrist strap if you're doing extreme sports or going on roller coasters. Now the pros of your GoPro, it is tiny, really easy to transport. It is tough and kid-proof. Like I said, I can happily give this to even my youngest child to film her own little mini vlogs and I'm not worried about her damaging the camera. The image stabilization on it is fantastic. You can run with this thing with image stabilization turned on. It's as if you're using a gimbal or a drone. It does have this really great feature where you can choose to shoot things in a big square. And that way in post, in the edit, you can choose, do you want to crop it into a vertical video for Instagram, TikTok and shorts, or do you want to make it into a horizontal video to use in long form content? That is such a handy feature to have, especially when you want to repurpose your content. The GoPro app is really great. You can sync with your phone and it backs everything up. It backs it up to the cloud and I do really like that app. Much more so than the app for the Canon or the Sony, which to be honest, both the Sony and the Canon apps are not amazing. There is a subscription you can have with the GoPro that will allow everything to back up to the cloud with unlimited storage, but also acts as insurance. So as long as you don't lose your GoPro, if you manage to damage it, they will replace it, which is really good if you are doing extreme sports and things. The cons of the GoPro, It's pretty bad in low light. I've used the GoPro a lot in the Disney Dream Cruise Vlog series, and the footage I took outside was fantastic, but the footage where we were indoors was just not good, and I really wouldn't recommend using the GoPro in low light where you have other options. The other downside I'd say is it's just not very accessory friendly. There are accessories you can use for GoPros, but by the time you've added on extra microphones and things, it stops it being waterproof. It's just a lot more fiddly, and I find accessories easier to use with my other cameras. So while my GoPro has its place for when we are in the water or physically on a roller coaster, it's not a camera I reach for much. So the GoPro is really easy to use. I like that it films in this big square, and then it can be cropped for vertical content if that's what you want to make, or it can be cropped for horizontal content if you want to make long form YouTube videos. The audio on it is okay. It's nothing to write home about. It's probably not as good as the Sony or the camera I'm going to show you in a minute. The stabilization, I would say, is pretty good. So if I just like jog forward or run back, it's still pretty good. I like that you can see yourself in the camera like this. I like that there is a viewfinder on the front as well as the back of this camera, but I've got to say it's low light performance. Like if we go over here where it's a bit darker, it's just not great. It's just not great. It can also give you that kind of fisheye look, which is a very GoPro kind of look. And if that's what you're after, it's great. But really, I've got to say this camera does so much better outdoors. If you're filming outside with this camera, it's amazing. I do not like it indoors. I'm going to be honest. The GoPro indoor footage, not for me. But if you're filming mostly outdoor stuff, very action camera, on roller coasters, that kind of thing, this might be a good option for you. Do you know how I said at the beginning of this video, I generally reach for one of two cameras, either the Sony ZV1 that I'm talking to you on now, which is probably the one I go for most. But there is a camera that I had quite recently that is competing for that top spot. That is my DJI Osmo Pocket 3. This thing is crazy clever. So this camera is on a gimbal, meaning you can get insanely smooth footage. Whatever you're doing with this camera, it's going to stay level. The face tracking on this thing is next level. It's so clever. You can tap on your face, get it to lock onto your face, and it will follow you around the room as if you've got someone else filming you, even when you're filming alone. Now, I had the DJI Pocket 2 originally, which was a great camera, but the audio wasn't brilliant and the low light performance was not great. This thing, however, has just leveled up. If you look on YouTube at the go-to recommended vlogging camera for 2024, most tech experts are recommending this now. It's so easy to use. You turn it on simply by flipping the screen. You can rotate it with a simple click and turn it off just by flipping the screen. This thing films in vertical and horizontal, so you can do that TikTok content as well as the YouTube stuff. The low light performance is so much better than most cameras. I took this to Walt Disney World and on our cruise on the Disney Wish and got some absolutely stunning footage with it. And it really is tiny. I mean, at the moment that's clipped on to this accessory. On its own, this is the whole camera. That is so small. I've not got massive hands. In fact, let's look at it in comparison to my phone. It's actually a little bit smaller. This thing is tiny. The picture quality is amazing, obviously because it's on a gimbal. The image stabilization is amazing. And you can do that vertical or horizontal. Now the cons, I do prefer the colors in the Sony to the DJI when given a choice. So I think that's why I tend to still reach for the Sony for my talking head videos, you know, just when I'm sort of in the house talking to you. But without a doubt, the stabilization is so much better on this one than the Sony. Now, another con could be that you can't change out the battery. However, you can get the creator combo, which is what I got, and I would highly recommend actually. Don't bother with a creator combo for the GoPro, but if you're going for the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, or we'll just call it the Pocket 3 from here on because it's a really long name, get the creator combo. It's all linked in that blog post. and you can click on the battery handle and then the camera starts charging with that handle attached, and you can keep filming and it's still not massive even with the extra battery handle attached. So no, it doesn't have batteries you can change over, but I had one battery handle that came with a creator combo, and I've actually purchased a separate one since. Also with the creator combo, it does come with this DJI mic 2, which is amazing. Of the external microphones, this one is the easiest to use with all the cameras, because with other external microphones, you've got to plug a receiver into the actual camera, and then if it is a wireless mic, you've got to clip something onto yourself. With this one, the receiver is built into the camera, so you can see that if I turn on the DJI mic, then that will show as linking with the Pocket 3 without me having to do anything else. That is so much easier than any other wireless mic system, believe me. And then you can either just talk into this like this, or clip it onto your clothing for hands-free, excellent audio. So accessory-wise for the Pocket 3, I've got the battery handle. In the creator combo, it also came with this base foot, so that you have got the option to charge the Pocket 3 plus this little mini tripod. You could stick it onto a bigger tripod using the screw mount on the bottom of both the battery handle and this little attachment here. So again, I'm not using any of the accessories to go with the Pocket 3 just to make it fair with the other comparisons. I love the way this thing tracks my face. It's honestly so good. Like, my arm is staying still, I am moving, and the camera is tracking me. It's insanely good. I mean, I could skip and the footage is still smooth, you know. The smoothness on this is amazing. I can spin around, all sorts. It's amazing. Now, I will say I prefer the colors without any color correction or anything. On the Sony, I feel like the colors are just a little less gray. I know you can film on a mode with this that kind of grays everything out. It's called D-Log M, and then you color grade after that. We're not talking about any of that today. I'm just using kind of straight out the box colors. And I think I do prefer, certainly indoors, the colors straight out of the Sony. But honestly, the portability on this camera is insanely good. We're gonna go in where it's a bit darker. So this is in my hall where there's no natural lighting, because we blocked up this door when we did the kitchen, just to give us more counter space. But you can see this thing is tiny. It is so small. You can flip the screen and still, if you want it even more portable, you can flip it back and forth. The sound quality on this, I would say, is pretty good. I mean, the only thing is you do have to be careful not to cover. There are some microphone holes on this, and I guess this is the same for all cameras. You've got to be careful not to cover anywhere where the microphone is supposed to be absorbing sound. I do find this easier to hold because this is so tiny with the clip-on accessory, because there's not much of it to grip onto. So although it's very convenient to have it so very small, I actually prefer it with a tripod attached, just so there's something to hold on to. Now, the footage I've had from this while we've been away has been phenomenal. And when I've been very busy, we've got a lot of bags and things, this is definitely the easiest camera to film with. I know I've given this to Bella. She filmed a little mini vlog with it. The footage is smooth and amazing. Honestly, this camera is exceptional. You ask my husband to film something, he will do it with this camera, pretty much with nothing else though. This camera also has the product showcase. So again, you can see I'm in focus, and then you hold up the bunny, and you back to me, hold up the bunny, although it is tracking me. The face tracking on this is so good that sometimes that can itself be a problem, because I'm trying to film like one of my kids next to me. It's just so good at tracking. But Will's used this for filming unboxing videos and things for his card game that he really likes, and the footage has just been brilliant. So really, if you want an all-in beginner's camera that does everything, that you just want to chuck in your pocket, you want to film your family, maybe film vlogs, this is probably the one, because it really is amazing. And some of the footage I've got with it has just been beautiful. And the simplicity of it, it's so small and it's really, really easy to use. So the question is, which camera am I going to recommend to you? Obviously, it's going to be a little bit dependent on what you want to use it for. If you are a family of skiers and water sports enthusiasts, it's going to be the GoPro. If, however, you just want to capture magical family moments and you want the footage to look great in whatever light and you want it to look smooth and effortless, I'd probably recommend the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. It really is a sensational camera. There are so many really great tutorials on YouTube as to how to use it. And that is another benefit actually of buying quite a mainstream camera. If you buy a camera where there are a lot of tutorials out there, then there's going to be plenty of information on how to use it so you can get the best out of your camera. And yet still the camera I reach for the most is my Sony ZV1. So if perhaps you are doing talking head videos like me, yes, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 can be used for that as well, 100%. It can be a studio camera. I still go for the Sony. But to be honest, it's a kind of a personal preference thing. Which footage do you prefer? Do you prefer the vlog footage on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 or on the Sony ZV1, or ZV1, I guess is the way we're supposed to say it in the UK. Let me know down in the comments which camera would appeal to you and or what you would be using it for. Don't forget to check out that blog post linked in the description for links to everything I've mentioned in this video. If you'd like some tips and information on how you can get started on YouTube, plus some behind the scenes on my YouTube channel, click on the playlist on screen now and check out my Mummy 4 Does Disney channel for some of our Disney travel vlogs, or check out my Patreon for some early release content. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Mwah. Bye.